I think today we've talked a lot about lung cancer in smokers, and coming more from a background with never smoker patients, how do we find the fine line between advocacy that's going to schools and teaching, you know, about smoking cessation, and that really lung cancer is a disease that anyone can get, not just smokers? And shouldn't we be basing our advocacy about finding a cure for both smokers and non-smokers?
I think there's no question that we all want that. And in many ways, we're farther ahead for people who haven't smoked than for people who have, because more people who haven't smoked are likely to have a single or maybe only a couple of driver mutations, and we have targeted therapies available to treat them. Screening, we're way away from being able to screen people who haven't smoked, because the number of people who are likely to be affected in any given group is so small. We just don't have a way to try to address it. And that's, personally, I'm a big proponent of some sort of a blood or sputum or urine test that we can do on everybody and say, okay, well, now this person is at high risk, and so now that person's going to go to get a CT scan, and that would be independent of any clinical factors like smoking history. That's my personal dream. You know, whether it comes to fruition in my lifetime, I don't know. I hope so. But there's no question that there's a lot of efforts on both sides. You know, we only have opportunities in primary prevention in terms of smoking, radon, things like that. Those are our only opportunities in primary prevention. Certainly, we have a duty to make people aware that lung cancer is a disease that can affect anyone. That absolutely is our duty, but we have to make sure we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater and further stigmatize those people who have gotten it because of something that they did. We need to make sure that that's not the message. So it really needs to be that no one deserves lung cancer.
And you representing the young adult lung cancer movement, and you should all be speaking, have a real opportunity to raise a profile. This is a little niche too that you could be carving out of awareness for a patient population that many young people are not smokers, but that you could be paving the way to raise the profile on an issue that, hey, lung cancer can affect you even if you don't smoke, because you could deliver a new message as young adults. You have great opportunity.
I mean, you did, you know, talk about it, but to me, I think that when we're going, obviously it needs, smoking cessation needs to happen when you're going to schools, but when we're going to schools and saying, you know, if you smoke, you're going to get lung cancer, it reinforces the stigma. So doesn't that have a negative effect on what's going on in advocacy?
I think, as Selma said, I think you guys can help craft that message, but I do think as the advocacy community, the way I hear it, it is, you know, anyone can get lung cancer. And it's obviously because it's such a complicated saying, you know, in certain cases it can be prevented, and you don't want to take away, because what did the smoking industry do? They said, oh, it can be cured or it can be reversed, and that helped people who were smokers continue. So it helps, it can, you know, people who are smokers, then it's, well, anyone can get lung cancer. So you're trying to deliver a very complicated message. But I do think, to me, hearing it in the context that anyone can get lung cancer, but we do know that many cancers are attributable to tobacco. So it does have to be a two-pronged approach. But I think with the message of not, you don't have to be a smoker to get lung cancer, but anyone can get lung cancer. I think in that context, then you can talk about some numbers, and you don't even need to say, really, smoker or non-smoker to some extent. It's, and I think that may help.
I really have a problem with all this talking about smoking, because I really believe that we just continue to reinforce the stigma. I have a good friend who has lung cancer and just actually recently diagnosed, and she said to me this really amazing statement: I am a never smoker, but smoking is killing me. because of all this bullshit about talking about smoking all the time. We don't blame any other cancer patient for their disease, but we blame lung cancer patients for their disease. And even never smoking lung cancer patients for the smoker's disease. Our foundation's message is about doing something and curing lung cancer and helping people that have lung cancer. We don't talk about smoking there. We'll leave that to the American Lung Association. I think in a lot of ways they've created the stigma.
Yeah, and Bonnie, I was thinking as everyone was talking, when someone gets lung cancer, I'm afraid like the first question they get at,
Totally.
And that's, as I was listening to all of you speaking, I was thinking, really the message, there needs to be a new campaign about lung cancer
Right.
education. And granted, if you smoke, you have very particular risks, but I think the public overall has limited comprehension in the shock
Exactly.
that someone gets lung
Exactly.
cancer and didn't smoke, and that's where the
Exactly.
new messaging needs
And
to be.
smoking is a cause for almost every cancer. Smoking is a cause for heart disease, but people write checks to the American Heart Association all the time. They don't make people with heart disease feel shamed, and I'm just personally sick of it. Our foundation is here to help people and take the shame away. And
The blame the victim.
it's got to stop. It just has to stop. We've been in here in this room an hour and 35 minutes, and we've spent most of the time talking about smoking. We haven't spent enough time talking about what we're going to do about it. So that's how I feel.
In truth, there's some very complex and irreconcilable challenges at the moment, and one is raised by the issue of the lung cancer screening study, because we want people not to smoke. The major cause of lung cancer in the world is bad luck. But if you smoke, your luck begins from a bad place. So we've got this parallel truth and tension. We don't want the screening trials to be used in some way to reassure smokers who are worried about lung cancer but no longer are. If you smoke, we want you to quit. And getting people to quit is a necessary part of addressing the problem of lung cancer, but can't be used secondarily to harm that important group of people who would be a big cancer by themselves. Non-smoking lung cancer, separated out, would be a big and a very important cancer. But my solution, and lots of different tensions, and as I said, irreconcilable discussions. I mean, we've tried to address stigma and with mottos and stuff. No one in the world deserves lung cancer. We've run that for a decade, and it was true when it started, and it's true now. Non-smokers don't deserve it. Smokers don't deserve it. Stigma is irreconcilable with optimal clinical care.
The numerous lung cancer-related organizations to come together with this new message. If it's happened and I'm unaware of it, then I apologize. I don't. There's a lot of organizations, and they seem, just like with many of the disease-type organizations, working independent of each other. But what would happen if you could marry, a communications message? Because this one, and everyone is passionate about it. You can feel it, it's palpable. Why not align over this? Everyone competes for dollars. Everyone has their own unique agenda and purpose as an organization. But at the same time, you're all fighting and believe in a common message, and you have a great opportunity. I'd like to help you with this communications objective. There's so many creative ways, especially now with even social networking, but it seems somehow something good can come out of this, that we could take this one thing and say, all right, one of the things that we are committed to based on this session today is we are going to craft the message and figure out how to distribute this in a massive way to finally eradicate the stigma and take the language and recraft language that you would own and be responsible for.
Selma, we've been trying to do that at the GLCC for a decade. We're an open organisation. We've got 24 members, 16 countries. We don't have all the messages. We're not excluding anyone, and we'll add more members hopefully after this meeting. Yeah, I mean, every new member has been a new insight, a new input, very, very useful as we incrementally do it.
I don't know if I'm naive or something, but I just feel it doesn't feel all that difficult. Bonnie probably is going to go home and email me in about 2 weeks and say, all right,
she'll get
fix
membership.
it. But
I can tell her. She will be a member.
all right.
It's good.
I just don't think, I think when somebody is diagnosed with cancer, any cancer, they should not ever have to feel shame at the same time.
But see, it's the general public. It's not the people in this room. It's the public themselves that make that association. You know.
We made it for the last 2 hours.
Yeah, we
made it for the last 2 hours. And we've all sat in here and talked about it.
Yep.
That's
And yet I think all of us are in alignment. I think most of the foundations, we don't talk about it because we're all in alignment that I don't care how you got it. I don't care what you did. All cancer is caused by 3 things: behavior, genetics, and environment. You have control over one of those. Why did my husband at the age of 45 get cancer? Was he a smoker? Yes. But did he deserve it still at the age of 45? I know people who are 98 years old that still smoke like crazy. What difference does it make? And I don't care how you got cancer. You deserve all our research and all our compassion to fight the disease. Now, having said that, I think the point is well taken. In our society, I think, at least in the United States, I think the United States has done a really good job of saying tobacco is bad. And it is stigmatized now. If you smoke, it's kind of looked down upon. And that's great, but it has jeopardized and come at the cost of people with lung cancer. So the general public believes there is a one-to-one relationship between smoking and lung cancer. In fact, what is the number? 10% of smokers get lung cancer? 15? It's a very low number. Now, they get a lot of other terrible diseases, okay, and ban tobacco from the face of the earth. I think we'd all be happy campers if we were to do that. But that's not our mission, and that's not what we're about. And to talk about that stigma, you know, we're talking a massive culture shift within our society. And we have been up against the ACS, who I think is a strong proponent of tobacco cessation. And they get credit, they've done a great job, they've done too good of a job, to our detriment. So we're talking, you know, we can all align, and you know, we're pretty vocal here. Well, we're gonna get our act together and we're gonna do it.
I just want to give everyone kind of an example of what Jill's Legacy is doing and how we would like to bring this to the table in terms of collaborating and educating and starting with the youth. I think that that's really where we're going to grow and get rid of this stigma, is because that's the next generation of advocates, of donors and doctors. And we need to let them know that this stigma, or just to get rid of this stigma in general, and that's where the power lies. And just from what we're doing, I mean, we're trying to collaborate like crazy. And anyone that is interested in helping us fight this stigma is something that we want to be a part of. And I think that that's where mobilizing the youth, that's where the power lies. And especially, you know, at universities, something that we're trying to do. So I completely agree that we need to be collaborating and we need to be spreading the word that anyone can get lung cancer to people all over the world.
It doesn't exist everywhere. It does not exist everywhere internationally. Okay, stigma is greatest in the countries where smoking was very common and is now less common. And in countries where everybody smokes, bad luck is the cause of everyone's cancer. Right? In countries where smoking rates have come down, stupidity is perceived to be the cause of lung cancer. You know, so you're bad luck when everyone smokes. So, you know, we just have to be very careful as we in Australia, we're the worst for stigma. I'm not proud of that, but it's the truth. You know, it exists in North America. You've got your rates down. So, but other places, Asia, stigma doesn't exist and we shouldn't go there teaching it.
We've got two pathways. The smoking, the patients who had smoked or still smoking and get lung cancer or another type of cancer, and the ones who don't or didn't. I was a bit offended when I heard that we shouldn't talk about stigma because the community stigmatizes the lung cancer patients and not the patients themselves. They start to get their thoughts about this stigmatization and the guiltiness which they have when they get confronted with the question, when you say that you've got lung cancer, oh yes, you smoked, didn't you? Or have you stopped smoking now? Now you've got the diagnosis. That's the first stigma that the people get when they've got the diagnosis, lung cancer. And that doesn't come from us as advocacies. It comes from the public. It comes from the community. So I don't know. I think it's very important that we've got a room where we're able to speak about this problem of stigmatization, and where is a better room than with people who can understand what's going on? Because the public community doesn't really realize that they're doing any stigmatization, because they don't realize with just one little question, oh yes, you smoked, didn't you? That is already a stigma.
Perhaps I could bring this back to research, because we've had the good luck of several years being able to welcome an HIV/AIDS stigma researcher, Wayne Stewart from UCSF, to several of our conferences. And one of the things that he's been able to point out is that one of the ways that HIV/AIDS became less stigmatized was when it became treatable, when it no longer was a death sentence. We are on the cusp of that today with lung cancer, particularly in people who haven't smoked. Because again, they have fewer driver mutations, we have more opportunities for those targeted therapies. I think it's incumbent upon all of us to spread that positive message about where research is taking us in lung cancer, where it can go, and when people see lung cancer as a disease that, hey, you know what, I could survive with that just as long as I could survive with breast cancer or HIV or heart disease, the stigma will start to lessen.